For 300 years, the imperial crown burned anyone unworthy. It shattered generals. It rejected royal bloodlines. It left the empire without a ruler. And today it bowed to a chained human. The grand hall of Virex Prime was silent. Thousands of lights glowed along the high black walls. Silver banners hung between tall pillars shaped like blades. At the center stood the empty throne. Above it floated the crown. It was not large. It did not need to be. A ring of dark metal, sharp and thin, with a core of living crystal in center. It did not rest on a head. It chose one. For 3 centuries, it had chosen no one. The last true empress had died without warning. Since then, every heir had stepped forward with pride, and every heir had stepped back in pain. Some had been burned. Some had fallen screaming as the crown's light flashed white-hot. One prince had never woken up. The crown did not explain. It only rejected. Now the empire had no ruler. The noble houses whispered. Fleets answered to their own commanders. Borders weakened. Enemies watched. And in the center of it all, the throne remained empty. The Queen Mother stood at the foot of the steps. Her armor was dark and heavy. Her eyes were old but sharp. She had ruled as regent for decades, but she could not wear the crown. It had refused her too. Today was not a coronation. Today was humiliation. 2 guards dragged a human into the hall. Chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles. His clothes were torn from battle. His face was bruised but steady. He did not struggle. He did not beg. He only looked around. The nobles watched from both sides of the hall. Their tall forms stood stiff and proud. Their skin shimmered under the light. Their eyes glowed faintly with controlled anger. A human, an enemy soldier, captured during the border war. The Queen Mother raised her hand. "Display him near the throne," she ordered. The guards forced the human forward. His boots scraped across the polished black floor. He stumbled once, then stood straight again. They pushed him to his knees at the base of the throne steps. "Let the court see," the Queen Mother said calmly. "Let them see what our enemies look like." Soft laughter spread among the nobles. The human lifted his head. His eyes moved slowly, studying the hall, the throne, the floating crown. He did not speak. Above him, the crown remained still, cold, silent. The Queen Mother turned toward the nobles. "For 3 centuries, our sacred crown has refused us. It rejects our blood. It denies our legacy." Her voice echoed across the chamber. "But this empire will endure, with or without its blessing." A noble stepped forward. "Perhaps the crown is broken." Murmurs filled the hall. Another said, "Or perhaps our blood has weakened." Anger rose in the room. The Queen Mother's jaw tightened. "The crown is not broken." As if an answer, a faint sound filled the air. A hum, soft, low, almost like breathing. The human noticed it first. His eyes lifted. The nobles slowly fell silent. The hum grew stronger. The crystal core inside the crown flickered. For the first time in decades, it glowed. A faint blue light spread across the metal ring. Gasps echoed through the hall. "No," whispered one noble. The Queen Mother froze. The crown had not reacted in 57 years. The glow brightened. The guard stepped back from the human, without meaning to. The hum turned into a sharp vibration that shook the air itself. The human remained on his knees, chains tied around his wrists. The crown slowly moved. Not upward, not away, down. It lowered slightly from its place above the throne. The glow shifted from blue to white. Several nobles fell back in fear. One shielded his eyes. "It senses something," a court scholar whispered. The Queen Mother's voice was quiet. "Impossible." The crown moved again. Slowly, carefully, it drifted forward, toward the human. The chains rattled as he shifted his weight. He looked up fully now, not with fear, with confusion. The light grew warmer. The guards reached for their weapons. The crown flashed sharply. Both guards were thrown back by a pulse of force. They crashed into the marble floor and did not move. Panic spread through the hall. "Shut it down!" someone shouted. "It cannot be shut down!" the scholar yelled back. The crown hovered only a few feet above the human's head. The hall was silent except for the hum. The Queen Mother slowly stepped forward. "Human," she said, her voice steady but low. "Do not move." He did not answer. He did not bow. He did not tremble. He only stared up at the ancient symbol of power that had rejected an entire empire. The crown's glow softened. The sharp light turned steady. Calm. Then something happened that no one in the hall had seen in 3 centuries. The crown tilted, lowered, and bent forward, like a warrior showing respect, like a ruler acknowledging another. It bowed. The sound in the hall was not a scream. It was silence, deep, heavy silence. The Queen Mother's eyes widened. The nobles stared in disbelief. The crown, sacred and feared, hovered before a chained human prisoner, and knelt. The crown remained lowered before the chained human. No one in the grand hall moved. The nobles stared in shock. Some looked afraid. Others looked furious. The Queen Mother stood very still, her sharp eyes fixed on the glowing ring of metal and crystal. The human slowly rose from his knees. His chains dragged across the floor as he stood. He did not reach for the crown. He did not smile. He did not bow. He simply stood straight. A noble near the front shouted, "Force him down!" 2 guards rushed forward again, weapons raised. Their faces were tight with fear and anger. "Make him kneel before it!" another noble yelled. "He mocks our empire." The human did not move. He looked up at the floating crown, then at the throne behind it. His face showed no hunger for power, only tired strength. The guards grabbed his shoulders and tried to push him down. The crown exploded with light. A sharp wave of energy burst from it. The guards were thrown backward as if struck by a giant hand. Their weapons melted in their grip. They hit the floor hard and did not rise. The hall filled with frightened voices. "It protects him. This is corruption. He has tainted it." The Queen Mother lifted her hand, and the room slowly quieted. The crown returned to a steady glow. It hovered calmly near the human's head, like a silent guardian. The human looked down at the guards who had fallen. There was no joy in his eyes, only concern. "I did not ask for this," he said quietly. His voice carried clearly through the hall. A tall noble stepped forward, his armor bright with family symbols. "You are a prisoner of war. You stand in chains, and yet the sacred crown bends to you. This is treason against our blood." The human met his gaze. "I don't even know what your crown wants." Murmurs spread again. The Queen Mother turned toward the scholars gathered near the throne. "Explain this." One of the oldest court scientists stepped forward. His thin hand shook slightly. "Your Majesty, the crown is not a simple symbol. It is ancient, older than our modern empire." He looked at the glowing ring with deep respect. It was forged by the first circle, warrior philosophers who ended the age of tyrants. The nobles shifted uncomfortably at that name. The scientist continued, "The crown does not measure blood. It does not measure strength alone. It scans neural intent, moral alignment, stability of purpose." Silence fell again. "It bonds to those who do not seek power for themselves." A noble laughed harshly. "Then why has it rejected us for 3 centuries? The scientist lowered his eyes. "Because our bloodline may have changed." That statement hit the hall harder than any weapon. The Queen Mother's voice was low. "Say what you mean." The scientist swallowed. "Over generations, the imperial line has become focused on control, expansion, dominance. The crown was designed to prevent tyranny. If it senses obsession with power, it rejects." The nobles stiffened. The human listened quietly. A guard captain stepped forward carefully. "Then kill the human. Remove the variable." He raised his weapon toward the prisoner. The crown flared so bright that the entire hall turned white for a heartbeat. The weapon shattered in the captain's hands. He cried out and fell back. The crown's message was clear. The human was not to be harmed. The Queen Mother descended the steps of the throne slowly. She stopped only a few feet from the prisoner. "What is your name?" she asked. "Marcus Hale," he answered. "Soldier?" "Yes." "You fought against us?" "Yes." And now the crown defends you. He gave a small, tired shake of his head. I didn't ask it to. Her eyes narrowed. Do you desire the throne, Marcus Hale? The hall held its breath. He looked at the throne behind her, at the empty seat that had ruled galaxies. Then he looked at the crown. No, he said simply. The word echoed softly. A few nobles gasped. The Queen Mother studied his face. You stand before ultimate power, freedom, command, and you refuse. I didn't come here for a crown, Marcus said. I came here in chains. I want my people safe. That's all. The glow of the crown deepened. The white light warmed into a steady gold. The scholar whispered in awe. It strengthens with his refusal. Marcus frowned slightly. I don't want to rule your empire. The light grew brighter. The hum returned, stronger than before. Not violent, not wild, certain. The Queen Mother slowly turned to look at the crown. For 300 years it had rejected ambition. Now it responded to humility. Marcus lifted his chained hand slightly. Take it away from me. Choose someone else. The crown moved closer. The chains around his wrists loosened slightly, metal cracking as if under pressure. The noble stepped back in fear. It cannot be undone, the scientist whispered. The bonding has begun. Marcus looked at the Queen Mother. I don't belong here. She stared at the glowing ring of ancient power hovering protectively above him. Her voice, when she spoke, was no longer filled with anger. It was filled with understanding. It does not choose who belongs, she said softly. The crown pulsed once. Bright, steady, final. The Queen Mother lowered her head just slightly, eyes never leaving the human prisoner. It has chosen. The hall did not calm after the Queen Mother's words. It has chosen. Those 3 words spread like fire. The nobles did not accept them. A tall warlord stepped forward, armor shining with old battle marks. His voice was sharp. A human cannot sit on our throne. Blood matters. Legacy matters. Others nodded. Anger replaced fear. He is a prisoner. He is an enemy. He cannot be worthy. Marcus Hale stood in the center of the hall, chains still hanging from his wrists. The crown floated above him, glowing with steady gold light. He felt every eye on him. The Queen Mother raised her hand for silence. The crown has not placed itself upon him. The warlord pointed upward. Then test him. The ancient word echoed through the chamber. Test. The scholar stepped forward again, his voice quiet but clear. The crown carries the old trials. They have not been used in centuries. Then use them, the warlord demanded. If he fails, this ends. The Queen Mother looked at Marcus. You may refuse. Marcus gave a small breath. What happens if I do? The crown will continue reacting. The empire will fracture faster. He closed his eyes for a moment. I'm tired of fighting, he said, but I won't run. The crown pulsed once. The gold light shifted to white. The hum deepened until it filled the entire hall. Suddenly, the air changed. The walls of the grand hall disappeared. The nobles gasped. They were no longer standing inside their palace. They were standing inside a battlefield. Smoke covered the sky. Buildings burned. Human ships screamed overhead. Alien walkers marched through the streets. Marcus stood in the middle of it. The vision was clear. Too clear. This is memory projection, the scholar whispered in awe. Direct neural recall. The nobles watched as a human in the vision shouted orders to his squad. Explosions shook the ground. An alien artillery blast struck a civilian transport nearby. The vehicle flipped, metal twisted, and burning. Marcus turned. He had a clear shot at an enemy command walker. One strike could disable it. Instead, he ran toward the transport. Several of his soldiers hesitated. Sir, the walker. Civilians first. Marcus shouted. The nobles saw him pull injured children from the wreckage. He carried them through smoke while enemy fire tore apart the street. The walker escaped. The vision shifted. Another battle. This time, Marcus and his unit were surrounded. Alien forces closed in from every side. A younger soldier looked at him in fear. We can't hold. Marcus looked at the sky. No support. No escape. He opened a channel. This is Captain Hale. We surrender. Gasps filled the hall. The vision froze on that moment. The warlord sneered. He surrendered. The scene continued. Alien troops approached. Marcus stepped forward first, hands raised. "Let my men go," he said. "They follow my orders." The alien commander studied him. "You ask mercy? I offer you no more dead soldiers." The vision faded slowly. The grand hall returned. Silence, heavy and deep. The nobles had seen everything. They had seen victory ignored for civilians. They had seen surrender chosen over pride. The warlord spoke again, but his voice had lost strength. He abandoned battle. The Queen Mother's eyes were sharp. He chose responsibility. The scholar added softly, "The crown was forged to prevent tyranny, to reject those who value conquest above life." Marcus stood quietly as the glow around him steadied again. The crown descended slightly. A new vision appeared. Not war. A hospital tent. Marcus sitting alone beside a wounded alien child from a past border conflict. The child had been left behind during retreat. Marcus had stayed until evacuation arrived. He had broken orders again. The vision ended. The hall was silent. The nobles shifted uncomfortably. They had expected cruelty. They had expected ambition. They had seen restraint. The Queen Mother stepped forward. "Marcus Hale." He looked at her. "The crown recognizes worth not in victory, but in choice. You have been shown to this court." A noble whispered, almost to himself, "He does not crave power." The Queen Mother gestured toward the throne. "You are offered regency, authority under the crown, protection from execution, command of fleets." Marcus stared at the throne. For a moment, the weight of it was visible in his eyes. Then he shook his head. "Power should serve," he said slowly, "not rule." The words were simple, but they echoed. "I won't take a throne to control your people," he continued. "If your crown wants someone who protects, then find someone among you who can do that." The glow intensified. The hum deepened until the floor vibrated. The crown lifted higher above him. The nobles stepped back again, shielding their eyes. Then, in a movement no one expected, it lowered, not onto his head, not above him, but down, to the floor. It settled gently at his feet. The metal touched the black stone and became still. A sign older than language. Submission to worth. The scholar dropped to his knees in shock. The Queen Mother's breath caught. Marcus stared at the crown resting before him, like a warrior offering allegiance. Suddenly, the crystal core flared brighter than ever before. A beam of light shot upward, piercing to the ceiling and into the sky, across cities, across fleets, across the empire. Every screen, every military display, every data network lit up with a single message in ancient script, clear, unmistakable, worth found. The message worth found did not bring peace. It brought fire. Within hours, 3 major noble houses declared the event false. They claimed the human had somehow corrupted the crown. They called it manipulation. They called it weakness. They called for war. Fleet commanders began choosing sides. Some swore loyalty to the crown's choice. Others refused to follow a prisoner of war. Military channels filled with arguments. Old rivalries returned. The empire that had survived for centuries without a crowned ruler now stood at the edge of civil war. Marcus Hale stood in the strategy chamber beside the Queen Mother. The crown rested in the containment field near the throne room, glowing softly. He had refused to touch it. "I will not wear it," he had said. Now star maps filled the air around them. Red lights marked fleets moving, without central command. "They are mobilizing," a general reported. "House Viral has armed orbital platforms above 2 core worlds." Another officer added, "House Trevan is calling this a coup." Marcus studied the map quietly. "You have command authority," the Queen Mother said. "Take it." "I'll help stabilize," he replied, "but I won't rule." She watched him carefully. "You understand that if you fail, they will execute you publicly." He gave a small nod. "I've faced worse." He stepped forward and activated the main military channel. Across the empire, officers paused as the image of a human appeared on their command screens. He still wore simple prisoner clothing. The chains had been removed, but the marks remained on his wrists. He did not look like a ruler. He looked like a soldier. "I am Marcus Hale," he began calmly. "You don't have to like me. You don't have to trust me. But you will listen." Some commanders prepared to cut the signal. He continued before they could. "Your empire stands on the edge of destroying itself. Not because of enemies, because of pride." The room behind him was silent. "You fear weakness," he said. "But strength without discipline is decay." The words carried weight. He pointed to the map. "If you fire on your own cities to defend your name, you are not strong. You are afraid." Several fleets slowed their advance. House Vero refused. They opened fire on a loyalist defense station near a civilian transport corridor. The blast disabled shields. Thousands of citizens were trapped in orbit as crossfire spread. Marcus reacted immediately. "Deploy interceptors," he ordered. "Target weapons only. No hull breaches." The general hesitated. Full destruction would end the threat faster. "No," Marcus said firmly. "Disable. Do not annihilate." The fleet under temporary central command moved quickly. Precision strikes hit weapon arrays and engine systems. Rebel ships spun helplessly but remained intact. Marcus opened a direct channel to the rebel commander. "Your guns are down," he said. "Stand down fully, or I board you myself." The alien commander stared at him through the screen. "You are human?" "Yes." "You could end us now." "Yes." "Why don't you?" Marcus answered without anger. "Because this empire does not need more graves." The rebel commander hesitated, then ordered retreat. The battle ended without mass death. News spread fast. Citizens saw the footage. They saw that the human had chosen restraint over revenge. In several cities, civilians gathered in public squares, watching the transmissions. Many had feared orbital bombardment. Instead, they saw controlled defense. They saw discipline. More fleets began signaling temporary loyalty to Central Command. Former enemies who had fought against Marcus in the border wars now sent private messages. "You spared our transport years ago," one officer admitted. "We remember." Inside the palace, the Queen Mother watched reports update across the walls. "He fights like a guardian," she murmured, "not like a conqueror." The scholar beside her nodded. The crown never desired expansion. It desired balance. Marcus returned from the command chamber hours later. His face was tired, but steady. "House Trevan is requesting negotiation." A guard informed him. He gave a small nod. "Good. You could demand their surrender." The guard said, "I will demand accountability," Marcus replied, "not humiliation." The Queen Mother studied him from across the room. "For 3 centuries," she said slowly, "we believe the crown sought dominance. A warrior emperor." She looked toward the containment field where the ancient ring glowed softly. It chose a guardian. Marcus shook his head slightly. "I'm just trying to stop people from killing each other." Outside, more fleets signaled compliance. Rebel leaders agreed to stand down in exchange for fair trial rather than execution. The empire did not fall into civil war. It stabilized. Not perfectly, but enough. As Marcus stood alone in the throne chamber that night, the hall quiet at last. The containment field around the crown flickered. The ring rose slowly into the air. The hum returned. He turned as the ancient artifact drifted toward him. "I told you," he said quietly. "I don't want it." The crown ignored him. It hovered above him, higher, centered. The golden light deepened. The Queen Mother stepped into the hall just in time to see it. The crown no longer rested at his feet. This time, it hovered directly above his head. The crown hovered above Marcus Hale's head. It did not press down. It did not burn. It waited. The golden light was steady now, not wild or blinding. It felt calm, certain. The Queen Mother stood at the base of the throne steps. She watched the ancient artifact hold its place above the human soldier. For 300 years it had rejected ambition. Now it would not leave him. Marcus looked up slowly. "You're not giving me much choice." he said under his breath. The crown pulsed once, softly. He turned to the Queen Mother. If I accept this, it won't be as emperor. The nobles who remained in the hall stiffened. You cannot change what the crown represents, one of them said. Marcus met his gaze. Then maybe what it represents needs to change. Silence followed. The Queen Mother stepped forward. Her voice was clear. State your terms. Marcus took a slow breath. No bloodline control. Murmurs spread. A shared governing council, he continued. Representatives from major houses, military leaders, civil sectors. The scholar nodded slowly, listening carefully. Military accountability, Marcus said. No fleet commander acts without oversight. No house owns a private army beyond regulation. Several nobles looked angry, but none interrupted. And no automatic inheritance of power, he finished. Leadership must be earned, proven. The hall was still. The Queen Mother studied him for a long moment. Then she looked at the crown. If these terms are accepted, she said quietly, you will carry the authority of the throne, not as emperor, but as protector regent. Marcus gave a small nod. Protector, not ruler. The crown descended. Slowly. It settled onto his head without pain. No flash of burning light. No explosion of force. Just warmth. The glow spread outward in a steady wave that rolled through the chamber like sunlight. Across the empire, every sensor and screen registered the change. The crown stabilized. For the first time in 3 centuries, its energy patterns became balanced, smooth, complete. The scholar's voice shook with awe. Full synchronization. Outside the palace, fleets that had been divided received the signal. The crown was no longer searching. It had bonded. Over the next cycles, the reforms began. The new council chamber replaced the old royal court. Seats were arranged in a circle instead of rows facing a throne. Debate replaced silent obedience. Fleet command structures were rewritten. Generals reported to oversight committees. Civilian protection became a primary directive. Private house armies were reduced and folded into central defense. It was not easy. Some nobles resisted quietly. Some left in anger. But the empire did not fracture. It adapted. In military academies, a new subject appeared in training programs. The human principle of power. Cadets studied the battles Marcus had fought. They studied the choices he had made. Victory delayed to save civilians. Surrender chosen to protect soldiers. Power must serve. Strength must protect. Months later, in a formal ceremony, the Queen Mother stood before Marcus in the Grand Hall. He now wore royal armor, dark and simple. No gold trim. No excessive symbols. But beneath the armor, hidden at his chest, he kept his old prisoner insignia. He refused to remove it. A reminder. The Queen Mother lowered herself onto one knee. The hall gasped softly. She did not kneel in defeat. She knelt in recognition. The crown chose wisely, she said. Marcus stepped forward quickly. Stand, please. She rose with a faint smile. Guardian, beyond the palace, negotiations began with humanity. There would be no revenge for the war, no forced tribute. Instead, an alliance treaty was signed. Shared borders, joint patrol fleets, exchange of knowledge. When the document was finalized, Marcus stood alone again in the throne chamber. The crown rested on his head lightly, almost weightless. He approached the tall window overlooking the capital. Ships moved peacefully through the sky lanes. Construction platforms rebuilt damaged sectors from the brief rebellion. The empire was not perfect, but it was stable. Behind him, the crown's glow reflected in the polished black floor. Steady, soft, for the first time in centuries. It was calm. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. He had never wanted a throne. He had wanted to protect his people. Now he protected millions more. The ancient artifact did not hum loudly anymore. It did not flash in warning. It simply glowed. Balanced. At peace. For 300 years, the empire searched for a ruler born to power. It never thought to look for one who refused it.